One. Excellent. Okay, good. All right. Welcome to the Uncommon Sense podcast. I'm your host, Blake. This is episode 9. I called it Grounded because of who we're talking to today. One of my longtime friends, Lisa, she works in the aviation industry for a long time. She also worked in a restaurant chain for a while. Both have been heavily affected by COVID and the recent shutdowns. And I just wanted to talk to somebody who is kind of going through the same thing that we're going through in the fitness industry, where we are having a big problem with dealing with the science as far as what scientists and the medical community is telling us as far as being safe, and what government and businesses are telling us as far as what we are allowed to do and not to do. So welcome, Lisa. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not too bad. Can't complain, all things considered. I mean, as long as I've known you, you were in the aviation industry. You were a flight attendant. You were flying all over the place. You had the one of the most interesting and probably most beautiful Facebook profiles and Instagrams, because you had all these amazing photos from all these different places in the world. And I know even me and my girlfriend looked and been like, okay, man, we got to go there, because that's crazy.
It's been about 9 months since I've had a phenomenal picture up there.
Yeah, but you still got really nice pictures of you up north doing your thing. It's still very pretty, but yeah, I mean, I just know from my personal, my personal experiences right now, just dealing with everything that's going on, and having my income like slashed almost completely. Like for me, I'm a person who's very, I try to listen to the rules. I understand that, people aren't perfect. And especially when it comes to, government officials, as much as we want to hate them, they're human as well. And I would like to believe for the most part that they're trying to do what they feel is right.
100%. I wouldn't want to be in Legault's position right now, or even the prime minister's. Like, I get it. There's always going to be one group or another that's going to be angry.
Yeah.
I just wish that they would listen to the science, compare what other countries are doing in terms of rapid testing and opening up borders. People want to fly. People can do it safely. If you're at risk, stay at home, and let's put in those protocols and get our economy rolling, because
that's it.
Soon there won't be any Canadian Airlines left.
And that's a huge problem for us, because I mean, Canada's not that big. I mean, physically wise, we're a large country, but as far as how many people we have in the country, we don't have that many large industries that we really take part in, that we're actually a staple in. And I know the aviation industry is one of those sectors of the economy where we actually do pretty well, and people actually like to fly Canadian Airlines. But yeah, I mean, just watching, at least on the news, what's going on as far as you guys not being able to work, not getting any kind of help from the government, just basically being grounded. And I mean, so many people work for the airlines in one facet or the next.
Hundreds of thousands of people have been affected, across the country. And people think aviation workers, and it's like, oh, just flight attendants, pilots. No, there's mechanics. There's people that work at the airport. There's the lady at Tim Hortons that's been working there for 15 years. There's, families that are affected, people that have been in the airline industry for 35 years plus. What are you going to do with a 60-year-old woman that's been doing this all her life? She's supposed to start over at 60. That's what's happening right now. I look at some of my colleagues, and they're out there reapplying, and what are you qualified for after so many years of giving your life to this one passion and this one industry? You can apply for it. It's what's been happening. I have colleagues that have applied for jobs, and it's at a salary that they were not even offered when they were 16, 17 years old. So
Right.
It's a big adjustment period for everyone, and a lot of sacrificing, if you will.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I've only been working in the fitness industry for probably about 5 years now, and it's just how hard it is to build a community. I mean, just of people who want to come to your gym, who want to train with you, who get comfortable building those personal relationships. And I mean, I'm sure it's very similar when it comes to working in the aviation industry, just, making those connections with people, whether it's, people who fly regularly or companies and corporations that use your company on the regular. Like it's that's the hard part to kind of recoup, because I mean, yeah, okay, you can kind of start business up and kind of do these small things, but I mean, like once you lose that connection to people, and once you lose that ability to kind of not manipulate, but kind of coerce your community to partake, it's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I don't think that the bigger airlines and even the smaller ones for that matter, the charter airlines, I don't think they'll be quickly forgotten in that sense. I do think that the momentum of wanting to travel is being extremely discouraged by the government for no reason. And that's what I worry about, because
right.
people want to travel. There are people that if they could, and we didn't have this quarantine, like there's so many countries in Europe that don't have this quarantine, this 14-day quarantine when you return. Like, who has that kind of time? Everyone's struggling, doing different jobs, adapting, needing a break, but can't leave the country because they need another 2 weeks when they get back.
Right. And they're already on minimized salaries for the most part anyways, so it's like,
Yeah, it's like
it's a little crazy. And then, so as far as from what you've been told by your people, as far as for the science of it, I mean, at least from what I looked up briefly, the airlines they're not spreading COVID in any sense. I mean, I've seen a couple of instances where there was a couple of people who tested positive on a couple of flights, but
yeah, I mean, but that's bound to happen. It can happen when you go to your grocery store. It can happen when you go to Costco. Aircrafts are built with these amazing HEPA filters. Like the chances of being seated in an aircraft heading on a 4-hour flight wearing a mask and only removing it to eat, like in a restaurant, the chances of catching anything are far and few between.
right.
So I don't know why people are up in arms about that. I don't think that the chances are high at all.
Yeah. Well, at least from the science of it, it doesn't seem like it is. I mean, the States has been flying; they're still flying all over the place.
We're flying. We have like minimal flights, a couple of flights to Europe and down south, and the flights are full. So it's a very good indication that Canadians are ready and willing to fly. And
Right. And they're just not. So has there been any kind of like discussion as far as like why these stipulations are in place, and why they're not trying to at least review them and maybe like update them to say like, okay, maybe we'll allow people to fly, but maybe they need to, have a test, or they need to.
Like, so what you're essentially describing is like a plan, which we've been patiently and impatiently waiting for 9 months. The transport minister says he's working on something, but it's been 9 months. We've done these rallies in Ottawa, Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, waiting for some sort of just indication that there's a plan on the way, like how to install the safety protocols, the rapid testing, let's say, the removal of the quarantine that's still there unnecessarily. And we're just waiting for that, basically. It's like the way the government's acting, it's as if it's unsafe to fly, and that's just not the case. But we can't get the ball moving if they don't lift some of the restrictions.
Like we can't even go into some kind of attempt to see like, okay, well, here's what we're doing, because I mean, from what I understand, there's still people from other countries flying into Canada, and still people flying out to Canada.
Quarantine, but they might have the luxury to do so. But
right.
And then there's some countries in Europe that you arrive in, there's no quarantine required. So some people are going for long term, or some people are saying, whatever, I don't care, I'm going down south, I'm going to stay in Mexico for 3 months. I have like a ton of colleagues that are doing that. So I myself, I went, was it at the end of the summer?
Mm-hmm.
with a few girlfriends. We were like, where's the furthest we can go without having quarantine? So we went
Right.
to Vancouver.
Okay.
But I mean,
Still,
yeah,
yeah.
they need to, hopefully it changes soon. I'm not sure what is, like you said, the science and like the technology is that's if that's what's hindering us, if it's the rapid testing that we're waiting for, if it's the funding, like I don't really know what it is. I don't know the logistics behind all of that. I just know
Right.
that they need to lift the restrictions if we want to get the airline industry back in the air.
Right. Well, I mean, because one of the biggest problems now that we're facing is what happens, if we have economic catastrophe. I mean, we're already seeing a lot of like smaller businesses that were, going basically like, paycheck to paycheck. They've closed down. But even if they're saying they're doing this in terms of trying to cull the spread of COVID, even if we all make this out of and say only 40% of the population uh, catches COVID and they manage it, if there's no one who has jobs out of this, then we're going to go from one like epidemic to the next, because then we're going to have massive unemployment.
Right.
That we're going to have to deal with. And then what are we going to do? What stimulus can you possibly offer after giving all this money to different, to keeping everybody, fed, obviously is what they have to do. But like, what are we going to do then when there's a bunch of people who are applying for unemployment because they've destroyed half their businesses because they can't get themselves up and running,
I saw something parallel. I read something quickly. There's a minister from the CAC party who they want to implement. This is parallel to airline and all the other industries that are suffering,
Mm-hmm.
like the restaurant industry. And so they're offering a certain amount per week for all those affected negatively by the restaurant industry to now study a new program or a new career and
Okay.
basically jump ship.
Right.
But people that are lifers in the restaurant industry, that are managers, that are sommeliers, that are owners, that are bakers, that are cooks, they're not looking to switch careers. They're looking for the restrictions to be lifted. Like for the restaurant industry as well, it's the same thing. Like you have like all these huge stores open, subway lines are being used, there's no limit, da da da. And
Costco's packed.
right.
Like,
And the number of cases that were that actually les éclosions that actually happen in restaurants,
mm-hmm.
Montreal are so minimal compared to any other type of gathering. I'm just shocked that they shut them down again.
It's what, like, I have a couple of buddies who own restaurants, and I mean, they're saying the same thing. They're like, their basic argument is that, listen, tell us what we have to do to stay open. If there is like you were talking about, air filter systems that we can put in the restaurants, we'll do it. If we have to put up fiberglass between, or not fiber, like plexiglass in between booths or something, if there's like some way that we manage the space, that'll be different. They're like, give us something where we can at least work towards being prepared to be open again, because at this point there's nothing.
No, I know. Like, but I mean, even at the cusp of the first wave, they did all that. They invested in the gloves, in the signs,
Mm-hmm.
in the Purell, in the arrows and the stickers on the floor, and the
Yeah.
menus with the QR codes to be scanned. The plexiglass is like, that's money coming out of small
Yeah.
business owners' pockets directly, and then they shut them down completely. Same thing that happened with the gyms.
Yeah.
And the airline industry as well, like services had to be modified, gloves, masks bought for every airline worker, like all this put into place, but nowhere to go. It's a very, very frustrating time, just waiting. And I just feel like they just There's flipping back and forth, and there's no real plan set
Yeah.
in place, and that's what's most disheartening, I think.
My biggest issue is it seems like they're really kind of gearing down on like I understand that Montreal we're densely populated and we're looking at, but I feel like for the most part Montreal kind of has its shit together. But then you look at places like Quebec City where the shit's running rampant right now, or off in the Gas Bay it's going crazy, like it's all up, and it's just like, but you were so hard on us to make sure that we were in a position where we could take care of ourselves, and same thing like you said, like at our gym we put plexi between each of the stations. We did a whole system where people only used certain equipment and they never came into contact with each other, so they wouldn't be sharing anything. Everybody had Purell cleaning products. I mean, I must have inhaled so much like Hertel by the end of the month that I was like, there's no way in the world anything can exist in my body because I breathed in so much cleaner. Like everything must be like completely 100%. But yeah, and then again, like I said before, I even understood to a certain extent that this is probably like a very cataclysmic thing for these politicians because very few of them understand anything about medicine. Like they're basically just semi-business.
I also don't feel like they're being properly advised. 4-day Christmas, 2-day Christmas, finish at 9 p.m. 6 people, 10 people. Like nothing is making sense anymore.
Yeah, that whole thing is all, like you said, that whole thing is weird. It's like they're giving it. I keep saying to my girlfriend, I'm like, because I studied psychology in school, so I'm like they're teetering on the line of yeah, it's like they're teetering on the level of trying to cull the population from complete like anarchy, because you can only do these things for so long before people are just like, I'm not listening to you anymore. Like, I just don't care.
Well, that's exactly what's happening right now. The only problem is like, I can't see airlines protesting and adding flights without the government's go. And I can't see the majority of restaurants opening their doors and risking to lose their liquor license if the government doesn't, like society as a whole can stop listening. And I think it's happening at this point, but but for the economy to start rolling, we need some leaders to step up.
Yeah, well, we definitely need some kind of change, or we at least need to like start going to, like, it's fine if this is how we're going to deal with things, but we need to go by the science. We need to go, like, if they're saying that, that, okay, it's cool for people to go see estheticians. It's cool for people to go see even masseuses. They can go and do these things that are like one-on-ones. Then how is it not okay that I can't have a personal training client who I'm not even probably going to come into the same amount of contact with?
I just feel like the people that are in government, unfortunately or fortunately, are just very disconnected to reality. Like, I can't. When is the last time one of those cabinet members went to a CrossFit box, or do they eat out as much? Do they understand what it is? Have they ever worked in a restaurant? Or I don't know, maybe there's a bigger picture I'm not seeing. I'm lucky enough to be in the Laurentians, so we're zone orange here, so I'm like working in an amazing restaurant, still open, socially distanced, so I'm able to do that. All the
thank God for that.
Yeah, restaurants are open here, the gyms are open here. I have a gym in my garage, so like very, very, very lucky, and lucky and almost embarrassed to be, because on the other side of the pond where most of our friends are in Montreal, like they can't go out anywhere, they can't do anything. Gyms are closed.
I mean, but listen, you got to do what you got to do. If you look at like you look at LA right now, like California, they're having a mass exodus of people who are just leaving because the restrictions are insane. Basically the whole way the government's being run right now is just absolutely asinine, and you got a bunch of people who are like, they're dipping out to like all those states where they were like, oh, those bunch of people don't know what they're doing. It's like, well, yeah, but now you're all going to red states now. It's a little bit, because you start seeing where this whole like, let's just, do these things without asking questions or coming to like a reality of, these different things. And I think we're starting to see it now too in Montreal, where I think politics is really coming under fire. Like it's kind of weird that ever since like Trump came into power, that like we're really starting to see just how much power these people have and how much power they have of our own life, like our own life. And especially with something with the pandemic and seeing, I think it really kind of is starting to make us realize that we need to raise the bar a little bit on who we are considering to be leaders. Like it's not just a position to fill.
I
It's a
feel like
position.
I feel like eventually, sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
no, you're good. Go ahead. 100%.
I feel like this pandemic, if anything, has brought to the forefront the deficiency of the system that lies in the government, as well as all the deficiencies in our healthcare system, Santé Canada, and just even the communication between the parties in order to make the proper decision. Like going back and forth between, like, I understand what you're saying, just to like pacify the people so that there won't be a riot or people
Yeah.
out and whatnot, but just teetering back and forth to pacify and then removing all those rights and then putting them back in. It's just like it makes for a very unsteady government.
Well, people can't plan their lives. Like
when
you can't.
when you want to be told, like, whatever it is, like, you want to shut us down for 4 weeks, make it happen, but don't open halfway and you need to see your family. So like there's so much contradicting information being given, and I wish that they would just sit down, properly plan this whole thing out.
Yeah.
I know no one knows the outcome, like what's going to happen in a year and a half, whatnot, but there's a way to do it that makes more sense, I think, in the public's eye.
Yeah. I mean, the common thread that I'm starting to hear now is that basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to buy time till the vaccine comes. But now the whole thing is with Canada in being in the position that it's in, they're saying that Canada is not going to get abundance of its vaccines until March, whereas the America and the UK, because they have these facilities to generate the vaccines in their countries, they're going to be able to get them starting next month. So now people are asking questions like, well, according to your actions, this seems to be how you guys are handling it, but that we can't stay like this till March. Like there's no way that anybody can sustain any kind of economy being shut down until March.
Everyone's basically going to be on welfare. Like that's what it's heading into. And at the same time, how many people I know a number of people that can't wait to get the vaccine as soon as it's out there, like on that train. And then I know, if not more people that are very wary, and they're like, but it's a new vaccine. We want to see what the side effects are and really works. And, like if you have to have this vaccine, there's an airline, I think it's Qantas, you have to have been vaccinated to board their aircraft.
Yeah, I saw that.
But like, is this what we're coming to?
Well, yeah, I saw that, and I actually was reading a Forbes magazine where they were talking about how business now, this could be a new normalcy, where it's like you're going to have to somehow prove that you've gotten this vaccine to go into certain stores, to go to do business in certain places and stuff. Like you're going to have to have like a card or something that says like, yes, I've been vaccinated. This is when I was vaccinated, so I can technically come here and we're fine. So it's like that's a whole other, that's a whole other like new world order thing.
That's a new world.
That's some real scary shit right there. Because then it's like then they're going to be like, well, instead of carrying a card, why don't we just chip you? I mean, that'll make it so much easier.
Why not put a sticker on your chest?
That's it. Like you'll put the barcodes on the back. Like
no, it's scary times, and at the same time, like I'll be honest with you, I don't know what I would do. Like flying is my passion. I
Mm-hmm.
miss it so much. I miss the smell of the airport, packing my bags, the layovers, being jet lagged. So if I'm told, well, you want your job back, you need to get vaccinated, like I'm probably inclined to taking it, you know?
Yeah, you're just like, screw it. Okay, fine, whatever. Like it is what it is. It's better than not working. It's better than not doing what I love. And I mean, I'm in the same boat too, because I mean, if they come in and say that, listen, like you can work in, you can be in the fitness industry, it's fine, but you have to get vaccinated. That's it. That's all. It's like, okay, sure. I mean,
Like if you're put against a wall, like what are you gonna do?
yeah, are you going to stand there and fight for it and then, go poor and not be able to eat? And I mean, even in my case, like you know what I mean? I've got a little one at home. So it's like, even that adds a whole other, I mean, you've got dogs, so you kind of know how it is, like you taking care of taking care of your dogs and stuff. But I mean, when someone else's life is really dependent on your life, it's a whole other situation that gets created. And there are people who are in way worse, not worse, but way more pressured situations than I'm in. Luckily my girlfriend's she's still working remotely, so money's not that bad for us. It's a little bit of a hit, but we can still kind of get by. But
there's some people I have colleagues that, imagine you're a flight attendant and a pilot, you get married, you have kids. Imagine you just bought a crazy intergenerational house and your parents have just moved in prior to the pandemic. I mean, your pilot husband is no longer making $300,000 a year, and you still have that mortgage to pay. Like the situation of the possibility of not being able to like make ends meet, pay your mortgage, be potentially on the street. It's like, on the financial side, it's like insane. But like the stress, the depression that comes along with it, like that's the aftermath of all of this that we're living right now. That I don't think anyone has really put enough time looking into, because there were people that like went through it at the beginning, like the first 3 months, can't leave my house, freaking out, I can't even imagine what state of mind they're in now, if they were like flipping out like
before. And now it's like, what do you do now with this situation? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, and even for the people who maybe not shut-ins, but people who didn't have that much access to other people or other deals, it's the same thing. We're having the mental stress and the mental problems that, even in my case, what I'm always thinking about is, how is this going to affect my 2-year-old's development? Because when I grew up as a kid, we went everywhere. Like we biked all over the place. We jumped around. You never thought about things like this, right? But now luckily she's still going to daycare, so she's still getting her interactions that way. But like I'm thinking about 3, when she's 4, 5, 6, 7. Like if shit's still kind of in the same area.
But it's like, a whole, that's the other thing. Like it's a whole other situation downtown Montreal compared to, let's say, in an orange zone where like the ski hills are open and like the parks are open and there's still activities, so long as you wear a mask and you're distanced, and like the yoga classes are still going on, and like like it really comes down to that, just that. And it's so sad. Like there's people that were well off and living life in Montreal, and like I can't even imagine. We moved from an apartment to a cottage just prior to the pandemic, and I cannot even imagine what our mental health would be like if we were trapped in that apartment with 2 dogs and nowhere to go. Like,
yeah, like, at least you can go out and go hiking and do all these outdoor things. I mean, I'm lucky because
you can do that in Montreal too, but it's just not as obvious because everything's closed.
Well, that's it. But the thing is too, there's people, right? That's the weird thing about all of this, is that we're social animals, but now we're being told like being social is not a good thing. So it's like now when when you used to walk down the street and you'd see a kid or something or whatever, you'd be like, oh, it's a cute kid, or like, oh, look at them playing or whatever. Now you're like,
or even go pinch their cheeks and like say hi and like
something, you know what I mean? Like I'm a large man, so like that's not really you can't really do that when you look like me. It's like people be like, what the hell is that guy doing? But yeah, but now you have this weird. I noticed it. Like I noticed it in people,
No,
but
I get it. People are
there's
like,
like this weird social anxiety now where
yeah.
people like when they're getting close to each other, they're like
We even had
just stay away from me.
we had a guy deliver something. No, a woman, sorry, deliver something from Amazon the other day,
Hmm.
and I guess she didn't expect us to open the door. Like we heard
Right.
her, we opened the door, and she was like,
Yeah,
she like handed it to us like without, and I was like,
just like
lady,
here,
like,
okay, bye. I gotta go. Yeah, it's
yeah, there's totally that kind of energy, and then there's the complete opposite where people are over it and we're masked, we're washing our hands, like it's
mhm.
time to get this economy moving before it all goes to shit.
Yeah, well, until we're a third world, like we've dropped into like a poor versus the distribution of wealth is so differed that like we're basically begging people to be like, well, can I just have a job or whatever, and then it just becomes a whole
But it's like
the whole semi-socialism will just go straight out the fucking window, and it'll be like, screw it, we'll just go in the way the states do it, and everyone for themselves, like.
it's like that career subsidy though. I just like
Yeah.
I know the intentions were probably pure of heart, but
Hmm.
it's almost like saying, well, your industry is dead and we don't know when it'll be back up and running because
Hmm.
we don't have a plan. So why don't you become a welder and we'll pay for it? Like it just doesn't make sense. Like why not aid and abet the dying industries where people have put in the bulk of like their savings, their blood, sweat, and tears,
Hmm.
rather than it's like almost accepting defeat. It's a very
Yeah.
strange thing to be offering, I find right now.
The weird thing for me is, I mean, to an extent, I can kind of understand them not really giving a shit about gyms because it's kind of like a niche business. I mean, for me, it's very important. For a lot of people, it's very important. But I can understand from a governmental standpoint because you look at most of them, they're not working out, so it's
Do you
fine.
think
Like,
any of them have been to a gym
well, that's what I
in
mean.
their
So
lifetime? Like they have no
that's it.
idea the importance.
Maybe Trudeau, because
Maybe
he's a
yes.
little vain, but that's okay. But yeah, but so for me, I can understand. But in your industry, like you know what I mean, in the flight industry, uh,
Yeah, but
I
you think these politicians are not flying right now?
but no, that's what I understand though. But
They're
that's why I'm
they're
saying like
100% flying. They have private jets, private Boeings. They take flights across Canada, etc. Maybe they're not going to Europe. Maybe they're not going to Jamaica for vacation, but they're certainly flying, and they rely on. It's crazy how much of our economy, in regards to cargo, like
hmm.
okay, people need business meetings. They need to use airline carriers. We get a lot of our imported goods via these airline carriers. We go see
Hmm.
our loved ones, and like they just still don't have a plan 9 months later.
Yeah, like it's. I don't know. It's just like I would believe that in the industry like the flight industry that they would have been, especially in something like, so like a company that like as big as like Air Canada, like that, it's huge. It's one of those hallmark companies for Canada. Like how they cannot be more worried about like the fact that we need to keep this thing running for as long as it, like, you know what I mean, we need to keep this thing moving because when it comes down to it, there's not really, if everyone else is going to start losing their jobs, like where are they going to get a job to? Like they're going to need a big company. Like what, everyone's going to go work at Walmart? And then you look at Walmart, and Walmart's packed full of people.
Mm.
And I'm like, how is this any different than like? I don't understand. Like I had a
I
talk with
mean, their theory behind that is that like Walmart is essential goods and like necessary for.
sure, I get it, but at the same time, it's like it's essential, but that's not like, so because it's essential, that's going to somehow COVID's going to be like, well, I'm not going to infect these people.
It's
My
like
big,
it's a calculated risk. Like
yeah.
I get where they're going, with like the gyms, and at first it was the salon parlors, but it's just the so much back and forth,
Hmm.
and then like opening and then reshutting, and then like the restaurants and gyms were open at one point, and then all of a sudden after everything was implemented, safety protocols,
Shut us down.
shut down again.
Shut everything down. Like I remember I walked
Like
in
if
that
that
day
doesn't
and
kill your morale, I don't know.
I mean, you should have saw us. We were when all this thing started happening and people getting sick, I was working at UPT and I was working at Biner, so I was working at both places, and we were doing everything, like, everything was fine. And then, you started hearing about people getting sick, and I started talking to the managers and stuff, like, what do you think is going to happen? Whatever, what are you guys hearing? And they're like, we don't know right now. They're like, I think we should, as long as we're following protocol, I think we should be okay. And then the next week they're like, no, we got to shut everything down because the hospitals are getting overrun and everything. And I think when that happened, everybody understood. Because you saw the nurses who were overworked, the doctors who were overworked, the people who were trying to save other people. And we didn't know anything about the disease, like the virus. We knew so little about it. We had no public information. But this second one, we've got a lot more information. We're watching the hospitals, like, we're understanding the movements. And it's like, on one hand, they're like, okay, well, we got to shut the gyms down. We got to shut other services down. But make sure that you go shop for Christmas holidays. It's like,
yes, because parking is free, and we want you to go to all the stores that are dying on St. Catherine Street and spend your money.
I'm like, but I don't have any money because you told me I can't work.
Right.
And then they're having, like, shows in the middle of the street on St. Catherine. The thing that drove me nuts, that, like, made me lose a lot of confidence in the government, was we were doing everything. We were cleaning, doing the stuff, making sure there was only a certain number of people in classes, wearing the masks all the time, no interaction, doing all this stuff, keeping everything super clean. Really annoying because it's like an extra hour of your day that you got to clean everything down and spray 100%. Stuff down. But then I'm reading a story on, like, MTL blog about how there's like 3,000 kids at Tam Tams. And I'm like,
oh, this summer.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You're telling us that there are going to be police going around to businesses making sure that everybody's following protocol. And then you've got a ton of people sitting on the top of McGill Mountain in the middle of the city who are just partying it up like nothing's changed. I'm like, but what happened? Where was all the discourse? Where was all the thing? Where was you're going to tell me that the first thought you had was not to, okay, we've got to make sure that public gatherings don't happen. Like, so put some police up on the hill, make sure nobody gathers, tell them that it's not like
they're too busy playing language police at Italian restaurants.
Oh, that's a whole other thing, man. This whole shit, and that's just like, that's the icing on the cake for this whole thing, is that, like, out of all the disarray problems that are going on right now from COVID, the hospitalizations, the businesses getting shut down, the people who are having a hard time mentally, you guys have the audacity to now talk about how that you're going to allocate $6 million to assure that language policies are being followed. One,
they're all over the place. It's like I said, like, you lost your confidence, but they don't seem to be communicating with each other, and they don't have a plan, and budgets are being allocated for stuff that is just not a priority right now.
It just, like, I looked at it, somebody was comparing it to when we went World War II, when we went to war. And they were talking, because it's the same thing, right? Like, a lot of people went over to war. A lot of people stopped working because of whatever. The economy kind of took a hit because people were, off, and things, and money was getting allocated to pay for military services, right? They were kind of looking at it in the same light and just saying, like, things need, like, if you're talking about things need to get put aside, like, if you're going to make the distinction of saying that all these companies need to stop working for the betterment of the health of the community, okay, cool. If you're willing to stop that revenue from coming in, you're not willing to maybe put language shit on pause for a while till we get to a sense of, like, okay, I'm comfortable in where I need to be right now. I need to whatever. Like, if you've got that much issue and that much problem, then you go get a French scientist, a French virologist, a French epidemiologist, a French doctor, and everything, and you have them all come in and explain all the shit in French, and then we'll all be forced to have to learn French. Like, I don't know how that betters anybody's situation
No, it
in a
was
situation like in this.
there was outrage too. So I think it was heard. But yeah, mind-boggling
I
stuff.
just how they could sit up there so confidently and just be like, I hope this kind of just shows people whom are like, like really pro separatist and haven't really like, or just like really pro in that position, because I don't like, I love French. I love everything about French. I love everything about Quebecois culture. Like, I'd fight to the end to protect it. I don't want Quebec to change. But what I do want is I want Quebec to realize that this idea of this language war is really unnecessary, because there are other countries in the world. I mean, listen, you're a global traveler. You've been to enough of them where kids grow up speaking
I
5,
think
6, 7 languages, and there's never an issue.
honestly, it's just not. You want to deal with this. You want to bring this tired subject back up again and like drag it through the mud. Fine, we'll do it. Your party's in power. Fine, but during a pandemic,
Yeah.
like, really, the healthcare system is crumbling. The education system is crumbling.
How about you take that $6 million and give it to nurses and doctors so that we can fly in some more nurses, some more doctors, put up some other hospitals so that we can actually keep things going and people can go to work? How about that? That would have been great. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna stop that for now, stop worrying about this, and we're gonna allocate that money into the health service division where we can see where we can do some good with it, instead of taking away money from something that's needed into something that's not. Like, I don't get it, and it's just it's absolutely insane. Last thing I did want to talk to you is a little bit just about the restaurant industry and just how things are changing. I have a couple of buddies who, like, one of my buddies, Ali, owns Omnivore, and I've talked to him about, like, how things are, and he's a pretty understanding guy. He gets it, but at the same time, he said the same thing. He's like, we need a plan. He's like, we need to do something. Like, he's like, if I've got to sell all my food takeout, if I've got to like hire delivery kids as opposed to waiters so that they go bring the food to people's houses, he's like, I'll do it. But he's like, there's no sense of like you said, there's no sense of a plan or no sense of how we're going to get out of this on a collective basis.
Right. And the government's defense on that is, well, we don't know. So we have to play it by ear, and it changes from week to week. But like, on a business standpoint, especially restaurants and airlines as well, the amount of energy and money it costs to implement any kind of new system, takeout, Uber, delivery,
Right.
blah blah blah, the containers, the this, the stickers, the marketing. It's money out of their pockets that they don't have for an very undetermined period of time that may or may not last.
Right.
So that's where they have the short end of the stick. It's like they don't know, and they're not going to be able to get an answer as to how much time it's going to last for.
Yeah. Because I actually, the first, how they say, like, in the pandemic, everybody like kind of took on some kind of hobby or got into something. I got really into kind of like cooking and restauranting and learning about that whole industry. And it's just, when you see,
I got into eating.
well, I think everyone got a little bit into eating, but I was watching a couple of like documentaries talking about like New York businesses and just restaurants and stuff, and I don't think people realize how much restaurants are really paycheck to paycheck and just like really trying to keep, like, you're just trying to keep the water flowing and hoping that it keeps raining, because if the drought just lasts a little bit too long,
there's a vast majority of, I don't want to say majority because it's so sad, but there is a huge number of restaurants in Quebec, Montreal especially, that are not going to make it. Like, you just look at some of the landmarks. Moisha's shut its doors.
Yeah.
Here, that's the kind of thing that's happening, and it's really sad because I don't know if these politicians realize like how much of a vibe that restaurants, bars, our tourism industry. The
Hmm.
airlines are a direct, um, you know, link to the hotels, the bars, the restaurants. It all works, together. And how much all of those things, all of those areas affect the vibe of Montreal and the vibe that is Montreal.
Well, Montreal is a fest.
When
Yeah.
people travel here, it's about where they go to eat, what club they went to have a
Yeah.
drink at, what show they went to see, and it's just being crushed with the restrictions at this point. So
Yeah.
very sad.
100%. 100%. I mean, Montreal is a festival town. That's what we are. Like, people come for Grand Prix. They come for Osheaga. They come for, like, you know what I mean? People, when they come out of town, they're not just coming. I mean, Montreal is very beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Old Port's great. There's a lot of like Montreal landmarks of things that, people love to come and see. But for the majority of it, like you said, a lot of these businesses make their money in the summers when all the festivals go on, because people come and then there's tons of places to go. So for them to just kind of like, I don't know, not really understand that Montreal's backbone really is that tourism and that restaurant industry, and obviously, the flight industry, because people got to get here and stuff, for them to kind of not understand that we need to do what we can to keep those businesses afloat. Or to
and I don't even know if comparatively, like, are other cities going through the same thing parallel to us? Like in Europe, is this what's happening? Is the economy suffering in exactly this way? Is it happening globally? Like, what's happening in Sweden now? Like, we don't hear about that. Is it just Montreal? Is it just Quebec that's going through these strange shutdowns and strange restrictions that are strangling the economy? Or
Well, I know Toronto just only shut down, I think it was this week. Like, they were doing stuff for, like, they were not regular. They had diminished numbers and everything of what they were doing, but they had still had restaurants open. But now they shut down.
because they had shut down at the beginning, as along with like the same time
With
as us,
everybody else, yeah.
right?
But
And
then
then
they
they
had
reopened slowly, and
that's
now they're
it.
shut down again.
And now they just shut down again because things got. But they were rolling for a little bit. Like, they were keeping. I know a lot of other places in Canada have like a really. I think Vancouver's got very few cases, like very few.
Yeah, they had a couple of spikes as of late, and Alberta just got hit hard. But
Yeah, but I think from what I read with Sweden is Sweden actually never closed.
right,
They never did a shutdown. They did the mask thing, the social distancing and everything, and they dealt with it. But then it becomes, I think what it is in Montreal is, I think it's more of a perfect storm, because we have if there is one thing that politics has really destroyed, it's the health sector in Quebec. Because at one point, I remember, like, when I was younger, everybody had a doctor. Like, everybody had a family doctor. And then
I have not had a family doctor for 25 years.
That's it. So
I'm born here, raised here, and I can't.
But I remember as a kid, we all had family doctors. Like, we were all, and then they started bringing in.
And then they died.
That's it. They brought in these businesses. They made it very unlawful. I actually had an ex-girlfriend who was doing her doctorate, but was talking about the business. And unbeknownst to me, it is actually very hard to run your own practice in Montreal, and especially in Quebec. It's a lot of issues. So they did not help them out at all. The number of doctors that they allow in Quebec is minimal. Like, they've done a lot to kind of minimize it. And I think that's what we're seeing, is that it's a thing that Bill Gates said, where it's like, we have to take a vast look at how look at the puppies. Look at the buddies. Look at the buddies.
Say hi, Pablo.
He's like, I don't know what's going on. What are you doing? Oh, buddy, look at the puppers. How old are they now?
Pablo is 5 and
Okay.
6.
Look at them. Oh, cute buddies. Look at little buddies. But
I'm
yeah.
sorry I distracted you.
No, it's okay, dogs. Listen, we all need a little bit of break, all this chaos anyways. It's a cute little puppy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think what we're seeing now is the focus needs to be shifted from, maybe just making money and just doing that kind of things, and that we really have to start worrying again about these essential services that in cases like this need to be in a position where they can handle situations like this, so that we can kind of keep the ball rolling to a certain extent. But yeah.
I think
Yeah.
sadly, like if things don't change very quickly in terms of opening up certain industries, that like there are worse things to come, like depression, mental anguish.
Yep.
People are going to start losing their homes. Like it's going to happen in the next few months,
Yeah, for sure. If the more people become, homeless or whatever, like it's going to become a very, very bad situation, and people are going to be like, listen, we don't care what the government says, like we just got to change the situation. But yeah, it's a very weird time to be around, that's for sure.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I appreciate you so much for taking time. I know you're busy, doing your stuff and things, but I really appreciate, kind of shedding some light on, what's going on in the aviation industry, the restaurant industry, and just, your own personal feels on all the stuff.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it so much. Yeah. Bye, Pablo. Have a later, buddy.
Bye,
See you
Blake.
later.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one. Thank you so
too.
much for coming out.
Bye.
Bye.